All right, team, friends and family, and rock stars from around the world. I have a very special guest on the Real Life Trading Podcast today. Her name is Chaunci Cline, and Chaunci is my mentor. She has been someone who has been guiding me and providing me information, intel, and motivation for the last few months. And I'll tell a very quick background story. In mid-February, we were both attending a conference, and she was the speaker of this conference. And from the stage, she pointed me out in the audience and said, "Jerremy, you are playing small. Time to step up and do something big with your life." And since then, we have started working together, and she has changed my life for the better. Chauncey, I have a question. When you say playing small, I think a lot of people know what it means. Well, what does it mean to you? And how would someone know if they're playing small?
Jeremy, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on Real Life Trading Podcast. It's an honor after working with you for several months and watching how you are just walking so tall in your greatness. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
But your question is a relevant one. How do you know if you're playing small? One of the things I've learned over the years with mentoring many great leaders and working alongside people, I recognize that people are not measuring the level of momentum of their life. If you're stuck, if you're not quite sure what your purpose is, or if you're not really having the level of impact that you desire, you've lost your hunger and you lost your passion for more, for greater, and you see that your circle is small and you're not reaching your goals, oftentimes those are great indicators that you're playing small. You know what you need to do, but you're not getting it done. You have vision boards, you have whiteboards, you have all those tools, and you have the strategy, but you're not seeing the results. And so that's when I come alongside people and understand that somewhere it's time to produce greater results in your life, in the lives of others. So that's when I know that when people are not meeting the markers in their life, they have great dreams, but they just don't know the process of how to get there.
Okay, this is going to get deep real quick. So I hope you're tuning in. Have a notepad ready. Because I will say for everyone listening, you are not specifically an active stock trader. You might have your investments, but this is not something that you do professionally. But you said two key words. You have the strategy, but you aren't seeing the results. So the two keywords being strategy and results. So here at Real Life Trading, we have hundreds of thousands of people across the globe that are actively using a strategy to trade the market to see the results of making more money. How would you relate that to what you just said? If they are trying to trade, they have strategies, but they're not seeing the results. Is it mental or is it something that the stock market's doing wrong?
Well, it could be a combination, but it always starts with yourself. Some people have the desire to do it, but they don't have the faith to do it. Yes. And when you have the faith to do something, you're disciplined around it. And what I find that most people sometimes are stifled by trauma, and trauma stifles, fear stifles, and people get stuck. So they're walking through life with a strategy, but they don't work the strategy daily. It's a daily discipline choice to pursue results. I am very results driven. And sometimes we try for the results so hard that we don't seek help. Yes. Because remember, there's someone a little further along than you. That's why mentorship is so important. I see greatness, but I help people to process greatness. I come alongside people. And so how do you marry the two? You know where you want to go, you know what you want to achieve, and you have a strategy to get there. But how do you work the process? Every day, it's a discipline choice.
What type of trauma would stifle people, in your opinion, from not seeing those results or not really believing in that faith?
Well, people who experience trauma, again, it comes to stifle. And so what it does, it crushes sometimes the ability to believe in themselves. It's a constant war with self. I know I need to get it done, but it's something that's fighting me from getting it done. I know what I need to do, but it's such a great fight to do it. And so it's so important that, faith and belief in yourself, I believe, is central. It's core. Is core to getting the results. You got to believe you can get the results, number one. And sometimes along the way, opposition comes. And then you think the opposition is greater than your greatness. It's not. Opposition comes to deter you, to distract you from being great. So you got to believe that greatness is inside of you. And every day you have to decide, decisions are key to greatness. You got to decide. You got to wake up every day and be present in life. And what trauma does, it knocks people down so much. People don't want to get up and be present for life daily.
Daily.
It's a daily discipline choice. It's a daily, every day I have to make decisions to show up. Every day I have to, because you know what? Some people check out. That's what trauma caused people to check out of their daily discipline choice. I'm not talking about routine, because routine does not always produce results. Relevance produce results. How relevant is your day? How purposeful is your day? Do you have priorities for the day? So we have a lot of things to get done, but maybe we have so many things to get done that we don't get anything done.
That's just, I've been there. I've had days like that where at the end of the day, I'm like, did I even do anything?
Did I get anything done?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you hear the word purpose driven, that's the reason the word is important, because every day is a disciplined choice and a decision to understand why you're on the earth. Okay. When you show up every day, and what trauma does, trauma says, you're not good enough to show up. You know what happened to you. You're not good enough, or that happened to you. Who's going to listen to you? Who's going to believe in you? Well, I got to believe in me. Right. And so when you show up, you recognize that what you have is something that the world needs. That's why I show up. I show up every day present, because I believe I have a solution to what the world needs. That's powerful. And so when I show up with that level of thought, because it starts with thought, when I show up with that level of thought, then I make decisions according to what I'm thinking.
And here's the truth, ladies and gentlemen, every single person listening has something that the world needs. Every person listening. That belief in yourself, that denial of internal greatness, that fear of and that distrust of that faith, where you truly do not believe that you are called for anything better than your life is now. That's that trauma. That's the trauma. You heard it when you were 5, when you were 6, when you were 2, when you were 1, when you were 17. It doesn't matter by who. It could be by yourself. Could have been a parent, could have been a teacher, could have been anyone. Where does trauma normally begin, in your opinion, Chaunci?
Hurt people, and because you don't choose your parents, you don't choose to be born, it was a choice of someone else, to bring you into the world. So sometimes you enter into trauma, but what you have to do is not let that trauma define who you are. We all grew up with, some challenge in life. That's just real, because life is difficult on a good day. Life will throw you some things. And if you don't throw back at life, if you don't rise up and recognize that, I'm going to take life by storm, or the life will take you by storm, and that's where focus come in. Do I focus on my greatness, or do I focus on the trauma? I think sometimes we give trauma too much energy, right? Yes, it happened, but understanding that, because that doesn't define what you make happen. And I know it may sound easier said than done, but it's a daily discipline choice to recognize, if I have too much trauma, I need to get some help. And sometimes people have too much pride and too much ego to get the help that they really need to process that trauma and get past that trauma. right? That's so important because trauma will smother your greatness. It smothers. It's like a blanket. It won't allow you to rise up above it. But with the right tools and the right help, you can overcome trauma every day. It is necessary that you overcome trauma, because if you don't, it will keep you in a trap. And I see so many people trapped by trauma because they don't know, some people can't identify what the trauma is, and so you have to get with people who are skilled enough to understand that's trauma and help you to identify what it is, because trauma sometimes feels normal. I went through it so much and so long, it becomes a norm, but that's not your norm. Your norm is your greatness. Your norm is your purpose.
Your normal is your purpose. Yes.
Yes.
How do we separate from those who gave us trauma?
Well, you don't separate. So, well, you can't separate, but what you understand is that perhaps they were traumatized. I said hurt people hurt people. So trauma is like being infected with a virus, right? So sometimes people don't know they have a cold, but you come into their presence and you catch the cold with unbeknownst to them knowing that they really have a cold. So sometimes people inflict trauma, not even know they're inflicting it, because it has become their norm, but you have to create a new norm. And that's why I tell people, people who cause you trauma, you do need to segregate and not always separate, because sometimes it could be your mother, it could be your father. You can't separate, but you can segregate. You can decide what you will and will not tolerate. It doesn't matter who it is in your life. You have to have a low tolerance for negativity. My tolerance for negativity is I don't have a high tolerance for negativity. So I choose what I allow in my space. And so that's when you segregate. So you don't separate from people you love, you segregate what you allow. Will I allow this negativity in my space? And so that's a choice. That's a daily discipline choice, what you allow to occupy your space. And so when you limit the level of trauma, once you identify the source, then you can begin to rise above it.
I love that. I'll give you an example for those who are listening and watching why it is always something internal that holds us back. So you mentioned early on about what does it mean to play small? And when an individual feels like they have lost their momentum or they're not measuring their momentum, they've lost the hunger, they've lost the passion. If you currently think, believe, or feel that I would get more hunger, I would get more passion if I just had more money, that is a very fantastic, amazing belief of someone who's going through trauma, because money will heal all of your money problems. But fun fact, most of the problems that you're experiencing are not money problems. Because if you're watching this, you have internet, you're able to listen to this on a phone or a computer or a device. You most likely have enough money for food and shelter. You don't have money problems.
My motto is you don't have a money problem, you have a mission problem.
There we go.
You have a life mission problem. I never chase money. I chase mission. I love people. Listen, your greatness and your internal wealth, because it's internal wealth. Your internal wealth determines, I believe, the amount of wealth you can gain, right? So the question is, do you love you? The internal wealth, you got to love you enough to get well, right? And I believe that when you find your mission, when you find your why, when you find your purpose, that always involve people. I've never seen anyone with a great purpose that does not involve people, right? And sometimes we segregate ourselves or separate ourselves from the very people who are designed to be a part of our journey. There's always someone you can help, and when you find that mission and that passion to serve, then you tap into the river of wealth. I think it's an internal understanding of knowing there's something more than me. When you're selfish, you seek greed. When you seek mission, you seek need. There's always a need to fulfill in the earth. Why did you look like your eyes pop up?
That was so good. You're just, I
It
haven't
is.
heard you say some of these things. I'm like, this is money.
It is. I mean, when I seek, when I'm self-seeking,
Yeah.
then I need more money because I have a greed problem. But when you seek mission, there's a need greater than yourself. And that's so powerful because the world has need of you. When I got the revelation that the world has need of something that I have specifically, uniquely, that I tell you, I didn't have a money problem. I became sought after when I recognized that I had a solution to the world's problem. So the world has need of us. The world have need of us to show up every day and be present with our purpose. Come on, what is your purpose? You got to show up and be present. And if you don't know it, you need to discover it. And I believe that internal need, that internal lacking will be fulfilled as you begin to flow in your purpose. I really believe that.
100%. I agree that as well. I heard a quote not that long ago from a friend. He heard it from someone else, obviously, but it said that your external wealth, or however much money you have in your bank account or your net worth, your external wealth will never exceed your internal wealth. So it's how you feel, it's how much you think you deserve. It's because you're afraid of asking. Because you're afraid of putting yourself out there. Even with the stock market, I tell individuals very frequently, if you have never made $200,000 in a year, that paradigm shift is so large and magnificent that the likelihood of you're going to make $200,000 in stock trading is very, very small. It's extremely tiny because you haven't lived there yet. You haven't thought about it. So put your mind there. Go try to live there, either through meditation or through prayer, through writing or through books.
I was going to say that I'm a woman of great faith. I mean, if I see it, I can conquer it. The problem is some people, some clients, their focus is off. Their focus is out of alignment. And so when your focus is out of alignment, then you can't see it enough to grab. When I see a dream, or if I have a vision of something or where I want to get to, say it's the 200,000, I can see it, taste it, feel it in advance. But it comes out of a place of great faith, believing that I can. Some people don't believe they can have 200,000. That's like, that's something that they just can't they just can't fathom. Me? Yes, you. Yes, all things are possible to those who believe. Do you really believe? And I believe that's the energy you attract. Sometimes we think too small. And because we think small, we play small. But when you think big, you walk tall, and that's what I love to help people do, walk tall. How do you walk taller in the earth? Because you have big dreams. Don't ever stop dreaming, but you got to be disciplined enough to conquer what you want.
I love the walk tall. I had a friend last night who I've known for a couple of years. He said when he first saw me after we've been apart for a while, he goes, "Have you grown 2 inches?"
Yes, you have.
That's a true story.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, because I am. I do feel like I'm walking taller because I have removed a small aspect of trauma working with you. And I was on a panel, an investing panel a few months ago with a few other real estate professionals. And one of the questions was asked by the audience was, if you could go back and do one thing earlier that would have helped your career, what would it have been? And the other professionals were talking about real estate deals they would have done differently, or they would have held more houses, or whatever the case is. My answer was, I would have healed myself earlier, because you mentioned about the ego and the pride. Because I did. I felt for sure when I was in my mid-20s, I was like, therapy, that's for pansies, right? Who goes to therapy? Who hires a coach? Who gets a mentor to uncover those cobwebs? And it took a few sessions with me and you to really, really uncover what are some of those things that are holding me back. But you need that 1 millimeter shift. You need the pebble from your shoe to often be removed. And you might not know what that pebble is or where it's located, But if you work with, or you can pour in time or energy into someone who knows how to find those traumatic experiences, once those are removed, you can fly.
I tell my clients, you don't have to be sick to get well, right?
There we go.
You don't
Yeah.
have to be sick to get well. You want to become better. You and I often talk about how do we get to the best version of who we really are. It's an investment. It's an investment in your internal wealth and health. Healing is so important, and some people don't know. Life can sometimes break some internal limbs and wounds that you don't know are there.
Mm,
And so it's important. It's something, but you can't put your finger on it. So you find a mentor, you find someone who can come alongside your journey and say, you know what, I identify it, because I'm skilled to identify, what's causing me trapped, why can't I break through? And so, it's important because we all have levels we need to break through. Like you said, the 200,000. Once you break through to the 200,000 level, the next level could be 1,000,000. But don't mean in between 2,000 and 1,000,000, there's not some work that needs to be done,
mm,
right? The game changed. The
mhm.
higher the level, the greater the press. So you do have to press, but sometimes the pressure of pressing cause people to crash. The stock market will crash, right? Why? Because sometimes it's under pressure. But what I teach people is, how do you have grace under pressure? You need that grace. You need that insight. You need that wisdom. You and I often talk about, you don't need more wealth. You need the wisdom. Solomon was a very wise man. How do you get that insight and that foresight in your life and your purpose and your destiny? And so that's so important that we stop and pause and get help before we crash.
What is your definition of insight?
Insight is revelation. Revelation is you get hope. You can almost see it happening, right? You don't know how it's going to happen, but you get a belief that it can happen. And
Mm,
so you get the revelation, you begin to see pieces of the puzzle coming together. Okay, I got that piece, and then you get here comes the next piece. And sometimes it takes people to come alongside you, why did this person show up? Why am I connecting with this person in my season? That's a part of giving them more insight. Sometimes people have, a little bit more knowledge than you have, a little bit more experience than you have. And so I believe in divine connection. People connect for a reason, and sometimes they connect for a season and then a lifetime. So it's so important to tap into the human resource. I believe the greatest resource in the world is human resource. Human capital
mm.
is powerful. Our brains, I often, talk to you about, your thought leader, what we think matters, what we think can change the world. We have great minds, but sometimes people don't have a platform to share their value. And I believe real life trading, is just not stock value, but it's human value. You bring so much value to the life of people, and that's so powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And that's something I've been working hard on, because I understand what you mentioned, that human capital. I realize that those who feel like they can change the world are usually the ones who do, which was what Steve Jobs said. You have to at some point just go, I'm going to fix this. I have no idea how. I have no idea how I'm going to solve this problem, be it America problem, be it another country's problem, be it an internal problem. You don't know.
That's right.
I don't know.
Hmm. I don't know.
Not
That's right.
sure. But let me start piecing it together and just asking people, because what will stop individuals from just simply asking, verbally or written, is a fear of rejection, some type of approach where, like, that person is going to say no and it's going to hurt my feelings.
Yep. Rejection is huge, but for every no is my yes. I just believe in me, and that's when you talked about this internal health and this internal healing. Listen, the greatest person that believes in you is you,
Mm. Mhm.
period.
Mhm.
You got to know it's something unique in me that someone else needs. Remember, I said either is need or greed. So the problem is, sometimes we don't think people have need of us. Sometimes when people reject you, it's just to redirect you. That was not your assignment. Sometimes I have clients and I have to tell them, you're not my assignment, and they laugh sometimes. What's an assignment? Yes. When you have a mentor, that's an assignment and you have to treat it. You have to study the case. You have to do your homework. It's an investment. So I encourage anyone who's listening to understand that rejection is not because it's not you. It's just not your assignment. It's just to redirect you to another, person or place or space.
You've just received a gift. If you get rejected, that's a gift.
That's a gift.
That's time saved. Right? You
True.
now have the opportunity, like that trade. If you just lost a trade, great, move on. You just received a gift of time.
Powerful.
If you ask someone a question and that is a fear that you have of, if I ask, I will get rejected, what a gift you would have, because rejection is redirection. I wrote that down. I love that quote.
It is.
Bring
It's
it.
Redirection. It recalibrates me, and sometimes we think it's us, but why? It could have been the other person, and I believe in time, divine timing. It wasn't my time. I do business with people I couldn't do business with 3 years ago because they weren't mature enough to do business, right? Maturity and growth is very key to understanding your greatness. We have to mature. And so what trauma does, sometimes it keeps you from growing and maturing, because trauma is a purpose blocker. Blocks you from really growing. And so that's why you get the help you need. If you're feeling as though, I just can't break through to the next level of my greatness, more often than not, it's something traumatic, or it may be something that just wants to keep you back.
Do you believe that's always the case?
Not always. Not always. I think sometimes we don't believe that we can. So sometimes it's trauma, and sometimes it's just a trap of how we think. How we think, the limitations. You and I talking about these limiting beliefs. And some of it could be cultural. Some of it could be, hereditary. It's different factors that can determine these limiting beliefs. And so we have to deconstruct those limiting beliefs and form new ones.
In your opinion, Chaunci, how do you change or update limiting beliefs into limitless beliefs?
And, being a woman of faith, a woman of great faith, prayer and meditation really helps me. When I sense that I have a limiting, I feel a limitation, I began to extract it, through thought. What's beyond this? What is this really about? So I do a self, examination. Always look at self first. Sometimes we look at other people, and sometimes we think limits are imposed by people. Sometimes limits are imposed, self-imposed. And so I always do a self-examination of what's hindering me from getting where I need to be. Is it because of how I believe, or because of what I believe in? Sometimes what we believe in limits our beliefs. Sometimes it's who we believe in. That's why you watch your inner circle. You have people. I love to surround myself with people who believe in me, because what they do, iron sharpens iron. And sometimes we don't surround ourselves with people who know more. I love great thinkers. I love people who are smarter than me, because they help me to grow and they help me to destroy those limiting beliefs. Because learning, you and I often talk about how education destroys limiting beliefs. It is. Education is a powerful hammer to crush limiting beliefs, because what it does is it reshapes and forms a new belief when you learn something different, when you learn something new. I love learning. Learning has caused me not to limit myself, because information becomes the revelation that you really need. And revelation says, how can I remain relevant? That's what information does for me. Great information, different sources of information help me to stay relevant and real.
Hmm.
Relevant and real. I want to stay real with myself. And so that's why I always do introspection. You know, you got to talk to yourself. Come on, Chauncey, get up today. You know, and then I also, we whiteboard. I believe I love to see what my targets are. I love to see what what's ahead. And so those things help to crush those limiting beliefs in my life, in my opinion.
It's a great answer. That's a great answer. I'm gonna pause here for a moment and just ask you a super easy question. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I do. I do. Let me ask you this. How did you overcome some of your limiting beliefs? Tell me. How did you what strategies did you use? Because I've watched you grow, I mean, exponentially. And what do you think was the one thing that caused you to turn on to that next level of not playing small? What limiting belief did you have to crush to help you to really rise up to your calling?
Okay, that's a fair question. So my answer to that is first I had to understand what limiting beliefs I had. I had to find that out. And that comes from, you mentioned the word introspection. So I would ask as specific questions as I can. If I had a roadblock or something in my life that was holding me back, I would just ask essentially the inverse of that roadblock. So example, we go back a few years. Why have I never made $1 million? Why? I mean, other
Right.
people have
Mhm.
done it. How come I haven't done it?
Great question.
So when I
Mhm.
start saying, why haven't I? Because if other people have, it's my fault. Because a lot of people will do this. They'll go, all right, this president sucks so bad. This president is stopping me from getting wealthy, or my teacher, or my mom, or my
Yes, yes, yes.
no
Mhm.
family. It's you.
Too.
It's you. So why haven't I? And I go down this list. I start writing with pen and paper the things that kind of pop in my mind. And one of the ones that came up was, I've lost it before, I'll lose it again. And so I had a fear of losing money. So once I realized I have a fear of losing money, I went, okay, I have a fear of losing money. Why do I have a fear of losing money? What does it mean to have a fear of losing money? I started going down that list internally, writing in a journal. And I realized I connected money with success. I connected money with fame. I connected money with wealth. And I also connected money with love. The more money I have, the more people will love me. And if I don't have money, I don't have love. And so if I lose money, I lose love. And you know that that's my number one human need. I am love. And so if I lose love, well, that's the exact epitome of what I won't want to happen. So
Right.
I avoided that at all costs. And so if you're getting into something where you can lose money on a daily basis, as long as you lose less money than you make, you're fine. But that was a rewiring that took time. So I had to sit down and write down all of those things, see them on paper. And then I went and started reading books or listening to podcasts or watching YouTube videos on those subjects, on those words that I wrote down. An example, I mentioned the word love. There was a book that I stumbled upon called Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And that's the book that has that very famous quote that everyone is probably pretty familiar with. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. That's the book that has that.
Wow.
And
That's
I thought,
powerful.
this is terrible. I thought she was dead. I thought this book was written in like 1642. Right. And when I got it, I realized she's beautiful, still alive, lives in California, I
Yes.
think, and is like
Yes.
in her early 50s. And that was just miraculous to me that a woman of such great magnitude still was existing and still alive. I thought that was so incredible. And so that too gave me massive inspiration that wow, people can still write and create such profound words and verses today. That gave me a belief in myself that I want to do that. And that eventually helped me write my book, When It Grows on Trees. Because
Yes.
I realized that someone who is currently alive was able to create such true value for the world.
True value. And what you just said, see, you got information that transformed into a revelation
Mhm.
that inspired you to move.
Yes.
Listen, anytime you get a revelation, it propels you to move.
Mhm.
That's what you got. It inspired you to do something more, to do something greater, uh, beyond yourself. And so I think that is so powerful, that you got that revelation. That your greatest fear, is really being powerful. People don't see themselves as powerful; they see themselves as popular, and that's the difference.
Mhm.
When you're powerful, you have greater impact. When you're popular, you just create a name. I don't need a name. I want to have, I want the world to know that I was here. I want to leave a legacy
Mhm.
of great impact on
Mhm.
people's lives.
100%. And that quote did, and it has still and daily rocks my world because I think that that's extremely accurate. Most of us do know what rock bottom feels like. Most humans, or most of you listening to this episode, they know what poverty feels like, what stress feels like, what abandonment feels like, what pressure, what financial obligation, what bills, what marital strife because of money. We all know what that feels like,
Yes.
but most do not know what pure bliss, absolute prosperity, and incredible wealth internally, externally, financially, spiritually, relationally. We don't know what that looks like. And that's terrifying.
It is, but it shouldn't be terrifying. It really should be a target.
That's right.
It should, it can, and that's why it's so important that we don't become overwhelmed. When I see people become overwhelmed by marriage, by bills, by children, by life, what we do, we shut down. We don't want to do anything. And that's what, and some, it's a different form of trauma, and it caused you to just stay stuck. But when you confront it, you can conquer it. That's the one, I've never seen anything I've conquered major that I didn't confront. You have to confront life daily, and you have to confront these limiting beliefs. And you started by identifying them, And so I just want to, encourage those who are listening today, that the power of self introspection, you got to identify that thing in order to conquer it.
Mhm. Absolutely. And you also have to realize that it's yours. You own it.
Own it, own it,
That's right. It was a
own it,
gift.
boss.
Gifts, like figure out why you were given that gift and who are you were giving it by. Thank him for it. Because
Yes, I'm grateful
that's
every
right.
day for the gifts that I've been given. Because we've all been given a measure of faith. We've all been given gifts, but we have to work them. God never promised, I've given you these gifts and I'm going to work them too. He said, no, I'm going to work through you. I work to you and work through you. And that's a power of identifying why you're needed in the earth. The world has need of you, Jerremy Newsome. And I'm just watching you rise up and walk tall,
Mm.
in the power of who you're becoming. Remember, we're always becoming greater. You don't just become great. You're always becoming a better version of yourself. So I'm watching this version 2.0, Jerremy Newsome 2.0, and I'm loving it.
Thank you. Thank you. And this has been an absolute honor for everyone who is listening. If you have any questions that you would like to ask Chauncey, throw them in the comments section below and I will send those to her and she will reply and I'll post her reply to you in your comment. So you let me know if you need anything. For those who are listening, for those who are watching, it's been an honor and a privilege. Thankfully, Chauncey and I have worked together like this at this exact time, which was 6 a.m. Central. That's why my voice was so deep. For those wondering.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Is
6
that
a.m.
Marvin Gaye? No.
That's right. 6 a.m. Central every Thursday for the last few months. Me and Chauncey have worked together and have had sessions just like this with this type of energy, with this type of direction, with this type of counsel, with very, very deep and specific questions. And I can assure you, team, it was one of the most transformational experiences of my life. And we're going to continue to work together in the future on many different aspects and many different programs and platforms. So for those tuning in, for those listening, I hope you got some value. Hope you found it enriching. Chauncey, what's one last thing you'd like to say to everyone before we leave?
I'm just so excited that when you find your mission, you find your millions.
Woo-hoo! We're ending with that, team. That's it. That's a wrap. Have a fantastic and incredible rest of your day and night. You guys rock.